Just horrendous things. They don't they're not efficacious in that they don't lead to good conclusions, and they're a violation of rights. Look, if I come up to you with a gun and I say, "Give me your money," and you protest, you say, "Well, that's against libertarianism." I say, "Tut, tut, tut, I'm going to give it to some poor person." It doesn't make it any less theft than in any other way. So when the government has welfare, whether it's corporate welfare, individual welfare for ostensibly poor people, or foreign welfare, it's just wrong. And welfare has very, very deleterious effects. What happened, there's this experiment: if you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump out. Its metabolism is such that it'll jump out. And if you put a frog in cold water and you heat it up gradually, it'll stay there and get, I guess, boiled alive.
To death, yeah.
Well, slavery was like boiling water with regard to the black family. After the slavery was ended in 1865, the black family was almost as intact as the white family. All through the 1870s and 1880s, black people were trying to get together. And in the 1910 census, the rate of family formation between whites and blacks was just a teensy bit different, a little bit in favor of whites, but it was pretty good. Then we had welfare, and the black family is not only breaking up, but failing to form in the first place. I think the statistic is something like three-quarters of the three-quarters of black kids are raised in non-intact families, and intact families are very important. An intact family means that you have less criminality, less drugs, less prostitution, less school leaving, and all sorts of things. And the welfare just undermined the black family. So you're the welfare, that's private welfare.
Let's back up a second. Let's back up a second. So you're suggesting that welfare was the problem in the African American community, because I'm sure there are many people that would very passionately disagree with that and argue that there isn't enough assistance or enough to help for people that have the odds so stacked against them in that regard.
Well, you're quite right. There are people who would argue against it, but I beg to differ from them. The statistics are clear. Until 1965, when welfare really got going, the black family was pretty intact. But as Charles Murray in his book Losing Grounds demonstrates, I think very well, what welfare did is made a young woman who was pregnant a much better offer than the young man who impregnated her. In effect, she married the state. And it's not just a black thing. In Sweden, where they're mostly white people and they have welfare, the family is becoming unintact there too. So it's not a black-white thing. It's just an indication of the vicious, depraved, and immoral effects of welfare. And yet everyone, it sounds good, it sounds like motherhood and apple pie, but it breaks up families, and families are very important for the economy. Monetary policy is too, and getting rid of the Fed is also, and getting rid of the minimum wage, and unions are too. But a good family formation is an indication, a precursor to economic welfare as well. So we should get rid of corporate welfare, domestic welfare for poor people, supposedly, and also foreign aid. And what we should do to help the black family is, first of all, legalize drugs. In terms of African American community, they are disproportionately in jail or dead due to shootings with each other. Ron Paul is accused of being a racist, and yet he is the only one, not Obama, well, Gary Johnson also now, who is relevant to the race. The libertarians are the only ones who are saying we should legalize drugs, and if we did, an awful lot of young black men wouldn't be dead who are now dead, and an awful lot of them would be out of jail because all they did was buy and sell stuff, and in buying and selling is part of free enterprise, only they bought and sold marijuana.
All right.
And then
I'm sorry, Professor Block, we're out of time. I do appreciate you sharing all of your views. I also want to express to our audience that I don't want to generalize an entire population or a race in terms of what we're talking about, but thank you for bringing up all of those perspectives.